Welcome back to another week of Let's Discuss with Meg Duke, where we discuss some things perinatal and all things mental health. This week, I can't even. I'm so excited I can't handle it. Melissa Howard entered the Air Force in 2005 as a weather technician. She received her She received her commission from Officer Training School in 2011 and became a weather officer. She holds a bachelor's in natural science and mathematics and a master's in health and sports science. She furthered her education with a master's certificate in women in leadership from Cornell University. She's married to Thomas Howard, an active duty Army Civil Affairs officer. Together they have 3 kids, Ethan, Emily, and Nathan. Melissa, hello.
Hi.
It is such a pleasure to chat with you today. I always kick off the episode with, how do we know each other?
How do we know each other? I can't think of a time that we didn't know each other.
I really, truly can't.
So I think we might have met on a soccer field, softball field, cheerleading, something of that nature back home in New Albany.
Yes, you know what is wild? I really don't remember. I want to say it was softball because anyway, it doesn't matter. But I think that's where we first would have met. But yes, so which is hilarious because I played softball for like 2 years. But anyway, so love it. So excited to have you here. Where are you right now in the world? You are my farthest away guest.
Oh, the furthest. Oh yeah, across the pond. I'm here in Grafenwehr, Germany.
Yes, amazing. Love it. And how did you get there?
Let's see. It was not by choice, it was by fortune, but I am stationed here because I'm in the military, and that's where they told me that they wanted me to live.
Yes, yeah. I have to admit, when you first announced you were going to Germany, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. They like got together and decided they were going to Germany, and it was like, no, that's not how the military works, Meg.
It would be nice if it did work that way, but not always.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice. I mean, I'm glad I at least sent you with your husband. I mean,
Yes, this was actually the only location that we could go together where we could live together.
oh
So
wow.
Germany
Well,
was the one option.
absolutely. Oh wow. So just okay, I didn't prep you for this. So if you don't remember because you've been there for a minute, we can skip over this, but do you remember like what were the other options? Like were they going to send you to Italy and him to Japan or
They were going to send me to Las Vegas and him to California,
Hmm.
and then both of us to Louisiana, but different sides of the states. And
Yeah.
then Germany was the only one where we could live together. So we're like, oh, Germany it is.
Wow. That I mean, sorry, the whole point of this episode obviously that we're ramping up to is like being in the military, being a parent, being a military partner, being the partner of a person in the military. So that's what we're getting into. And that's just so interesting to me as well. You know, I have some other friends whose spouses are in the military and they'll put in their requests of like their cities that they prefer, but I don't think I know anybody else who they're both in the military and it's like, well, we'll send you to Vegas and you'll be in California and it's like a 5-hour drive. You'll be fine.
Exactly. Like you can Skype. It's awesome.
Oh my gosh, wild, absolutely wild. So tell me about what kind of got you, what was the catalyst that was like military? That's where I'm going.
So you know me as a person, but I don't think your
Yes.
fan base does.
No,
Not
I
a
don't
whole
think so. Share with the listeners.
Not a whole lot of thought went behind it originally. I had finished up culinary school and decided that I really liked traveling, ironically. So I got to go to Germany with the Air Force. But that's really why I joined was to go back to school, do something else, and to travel.
Okay.
And 18 years later.
First of all, it's wild that it's been that longer since we've graduated high school. I assume, did you go back to your 20-year anniversary or to your reunion?
I did not, but I definitely felt the sting when I saw all the Facebook posts coming in. I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
old.
You know, I think I might go to this one. I haven't heard single word one about whether or not it's being planned or anything. I was not in the student council. So uh, hopefully, I was like, yeah, I could try to make it back 20 years on. I could try to make it back for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Okay. And so like, I mean, I guess you've always been in the military as a parent, so you wouldn't necessarily know any other way, but like what is that like for a person knowing like the difference in your job, the stressors of your job, the moving, all what is it like being a parent and being in the military?
Um, it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say one of the best things the military does for military children is it makes them resilient, but it's also what I consider one of the worst things because it makes them resilient. And there's an
Mm,
expectation that just comes with all these kids are just fine picking up and moving every couple of years, starting
mhm.
over new schools, while they do it with a ton of grace. In the
Yeah.
background, obviously, being a mental health provider, you know that it takes its toll. And when our babies hurt, we hurt. So
Yeah.
it can be hard.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, because your kids are over living with you, running
They are.
track in Munich and
Yes, they came over. We actually have a blended family, so their father lives back in the States, and we fly them over twice a year. But this summer they will be flipping and going to stay with their dad to do high school in the States for because they want the stability.
sure.
So
Wow.
we're
Oh, I don't think I did know that. Oh, wow. So that'll be a real adjustment for all of you.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I like what you said too about when our babies hurt, we hurt. And that is a tough thing to have to kind of process through. And the other thing too, I love how you describe resilience and like it's a good thing for people to have, but it's one of these things I think we're starting now. The pendulum is swinging back a little bit from the like, let's all be resilient. It's like, let's stop having things happen that have to make us be resilient.
Right, yes.
Oh, yeah, and so it's so tough. It is definitely obviously a good characteristic to have a good quality, but that is so tough of the expectation of just moving and how long until you're no longer in Germany?
I will leave here in July of next year,
Okay.
and
So
then
the
I'll
kids will only
retire the
be
following year.
the kids will hopefully only be on another continent for 1 year.
Yes,
Yeah.
for 1 year.
That would be very wild to, having to send your kids back across the pond.
Yeah, we talked about it for a long time and had a lot of tearful conversations, but I've asked a lot of them being military children and finally it was just like, I understand the sacrifices that you made for my decision, so I'm cool with,
Yeah,
trying to help you have some stability in the
yeah,
high school years.
absolutely. And so if you could imagine what your kids would say about being the child of military parents, what do you think they might say about kind of all of the whole thing?
If I could imagine, I would say it's been fun, I think, overall, because they've lived all over the place. We've lived in Las Vegas, Panama City Beach, St. Louis, Germany. So they've gotten to see a lot and do a lot, but it's definitely coming at a cost. So moving every couple of years and starting over and finding new friends and new sports teams is it's been hard for them.
Mm-hmm. And how are they doing picking up German?
um, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, they can hold their own like at a restaurant, but that's about all that we do.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, and maybe when they come back to the States, then they'll maybe learn Spanish and their language centers will have been opened up a little bit in a space where they'll be more receptive for their high school language careers.
Absolutely.
Well, that's my goal, right? Well, we're not going to go into too much of a New Albany High School tangent, but obviously, Herr Howard. And so I took German because he was just like the end all be all, most amazing teacher in the world. And while I have no regrets of that experience, it is not helpful in the United States to know German.
Right.
And so when my children, I was like, okay, I'm going to teach them Spanish because everybody needs to know Spanish in the United States. We don't have a national language. Even if we did, it wouldn't matter. A lot of people here speak Spanish. Let's all love each other and communicate. And I was trying, but I was like, none of these words are coming naturally to me to be able to express that, like, ball. Well, I know what ball is now, but and so then I'm like, okay, well, that's my hope. I'm like, so I'm teaching them German with the hope that when they get to school, maybe Spanish will come a little easier by somebody who actually knows Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it all over Europe as we've traveled around. And once you open up those language centers, it's really easy for children to pick up second and third languages.
Mhm.
Um, I speak better Spanish than I do German. So, like you said, German words don't necessarily come naturally. And then, I obviously haven't dropped the Southern Indiana accent, which
Oh,
makes
yes.
it even more interesting. They're just like, oh, that's a heart.
I know, it's so funny with certain words. I'm like, well, I don't know how to say that. I'm just gonna say it
Exactly.
with this
Like I was just
twang.
asking.
No,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's so wild. But and that's nice too over in Europe because it's compulsory to take to take English, I think,
Mhm.
and then they take another foreign language. And yeah, anyway, I won't get on my language soapbox, but I do think that's really cool that your kids are getting the opportunity to try to, you know, shift their thinking and looking in different ways and ordering their schnitzel and
Yeah, and my son got to have his first beer because that's a thing here at
that's
14.
right.
So he tried it and hated it, but
Sure.
it's part of the culture, so
Yeah.
we went.
Yeah. Was it what kind of a beer did he have? I'm curious.
Yeah, to Hefeweizen.
Nice. Okay.
Then he was like, "Yeah, it's not really my thing," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I don't think beer is most people's thing when they first taste it.
No, not at all. It
It is
took me
definitely an acquired taste. He's on the right track.
exactly. It took me what 38 years from when I moved over here to start actually drinking beer. So,
Hey, well, look at you are assimilating to the culture nicely then.
yep, I'm full in.
Amazing. And so what is it kind of looking at it from the partner perspective because you're married to somebody in the military and what's that been like? What's that experience been like for you?
Um, I think in that regard, our relationship's a little bit easier because we know the expectations of the job and we know, the commitment that comes with being a military service member. And like we identified earlier, things aren't always our choices. So um, it's a lot easier to take, I think, than somebody who is married to someone in the military not having served themselves because there's a level of understanding I don't know that everyone has.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see what you're saying. Like you committed to that position and that role. And of course, when you commit to your partner, you hopefully understand what that means well before the commitments take place. But having
Right.
to be able to pick up and move and how tough that can be and some of the other requirements of the role. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I'm wondering, I'd like to talk a lot about not like self-care, like do you take bubble baths, but because people kind of misappropriate or misunderstand or misinterpret self-care these days and it's not just that, but what is it that you do given you're in a foreign country, you have children, you're in the military, you're a military spouse and as well as being in the military, how do you take time, make time for yourself? What are some of the meaningful things that you do to make sure that you remain, grounded and able to take care of yourself and find those pockets of uh, reconnecting within?
So it used to be running. I
Mhm.
would just go on long runs, just quiet. Germany is great for that. Lots of like wooded trail areas,
Ooh, yeah.
bike paths all over, and Bavaria is absolutely stunning to look at. So
Yes.
definitely fun to go on runs. I can't really run as much anymore from a calf injury, but
Mhm.
traveling has definitely become one of our go-tos, as you've seen,
Yes.
on our pages. That's something that really kind of recharges my batteries, and we connect as a family doing.
Nice. Yes. And I was gonna say, and this also too, leading up to, you have started a travel blog and a page, and I am so excited to hear about it. Before I let you jump in, I'm gonna get on my own little let me brag about my girlfriend thing. It has been such a joy to stalk your trips. I mean, you all have gone to so many places, and then to see your little countdowns of like this many weeks until we go to Greece, and this many weeks until we go, and then this many months, and it's just been, I mean, again, not to be like, your children should be so grateful. Not saying that it's a very tough thing to do. I am just saying, like, I'm just going to say, like, what an experience that they're having, being like, yes, let's hop a train and go to Spain. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be a rhyme. It just happened. Sorry.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, me personally, I would have, been over the moon if I had these chances when I was a teenager. I know every teenager kind of responds differently, but yeah, they've definitely have had a quick, fast hurry of a trip around Europe in their
Yeah.
year and a half years.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And so what inspired you to go from, posting on Facebook to actually kind of broadening your reach and putting together your page?
When I started, obviously I was just kind of detailing our trips, mostly for family. We have family members that haven't left the country and probably don't plan on ever leaving the country,
Yes.
but they like seeing our adventures, and then started getting questions about uh trips and how we do things. And a bunch of friends and family members were like, you should just start documenting all this stuff, and like you can help people, or you could even monetize it and make it a business, which, I'm just doing it for fun. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um I think it's cool to share our little adventures, and if we can give somebody some tips along the way, even better.
Yes. Well, it is, I have to admit too, it's always been really interesting to me to watch it. I'm like, do people use travel agents these days? Like, how do you even know where you want to go?
Yeah, people do still use travel agents.
Yeah.
Which I found. I pretty much plan all of our stuff just researching on my own. Mostly just ask the kids, hey, where do you want to go next? Now they've completely run out of ideas because, the world's humongous and they've seen a part of it. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, well, let's go to Barcelona. And they're like, okay.
Sure. Hey, he can have some sangria, right? I don't know what the drinking age is in
I don't know
Spain.
what it is either, but I definitely had some sangria, which was delicious.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I love some sangria. We could go off on a sangria rant. We won't. But anyway, yeah. And that's so cool. So you're just kind of going through and Googling and saying, like, we picked a spot. Now let's find the most fantastic things to see, and kind of do you like to do more touristy stuff? Do you try to find more local, like the things the locals do? Like what kind of a blend?
We try to do a blend, usually try to, see the big highlights, to say, yep, been there, done that. But we definitely like the off the beaten path things. I guess my biggest thing is to try to create a special memory in each place that we go. So
Yeah.
when they're like, oh, I went to Budapest, they can remember we did like a street art tour.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to switch it up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna totally botch what country you're in, but didn't you do like a pottery class or something somewhere?
We did go pottery shopping in Poland.
That's okay.
And
That's what I was thinking of. But then you also, what you made like a wine glass or something. I don't know. See, you've traveled so much, I can't keep it straight. I love it. But it was beautiful, whatever it was that you made. And I'm going to kick myself because I'm going to get off here and be like, oh, it was Switzerland, but I don't know. You made something and you all made them and you're like, and now we can take them home and use them. And I was like, that is so cool because no matter where you are in life, no matter what time, you'll be able to be like, oh, when I was in junior high in Germany, we traveled to Luxembourg and made this thing, and now I'm still using it in college or and so on. So again, I'm gonna kick myself when I get off of this and know exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But But also, what a beautiful thing that there's so much travel going on that we can't remember.
Exactly. You pinpoint it. I think the only cups we got were just outside of Venice in a little island, Murano, which is famous for glass.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tom, Emily, and I went to a glass blowing, I guess like a demonstration or whatever. And then we met the glass blower and we watched him make our cups and we did bring those back. So,
I
um,
think Murano is what I'm thinking of. Yes. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. And then you made chocolate somewhere. Anyway, I'm just like a little, I think that's what I was conflating was like you and Aprons making chocolates in France with the glass blowing in Murano. But again, I'm sorry, people are probably like, what is Meg doing? Is she having a stroke? But like, it's so amazing because that is what you decided when you were like, okay, we are being voluntold to go to Europe, which is
mhm,
not our choice. Let's make the best of it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And we throw ourselves into some scary deep waters with foreign languages we don't know and
Sure.
food we've never seen before. But if nothing else, we get some good laughs and we know, yeah, probably not going to do that again.
Couple of dishes that you're like, okay, I can check that off the list and keep it over there
Yeah,
off the list.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that's so wonderful. And do you know where you'll be after Germany next year?
We did not. It's kind of like a lottery. We just
Uh-huh.
kind of wait and they tell us, and then we kind of go probably about 6 months after that.
Yeah. Oh wow. So probably hopefully back in the States, or are you all thinking going east, or what do you think?
I think we'll be on the East Coast in the United States,
Mhm.
hopefully, because it'll be close to Tom's son and then Ethan and Emily as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
So that's our hope.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I hope that works out. I know that's you don't always get your first choice, right? As
Or any
evidenced by
places.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am so excited. I really appreciate it. Just I've always wanted to have somebody on who was in the military and can kind of speak to that because I think, not to be like, USA patriot, whatever, but like we all really appreciate the sacrifice that people make. And I don't think a lot of people really truly understand some of the implications of what it means to devote your career and yourself to the US military. And so it's nice to be able to hear from somebody who and say like we live in another country, however many hours away from our family. Um, and we do that in the service of the nation, and so that's really it's just a very beautiful thing and a lot of different things to think about personally, from a partnership, as a parent, all of that together.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So where can everybody find your travel page?
Oh, yes. So on Facebook, it's called the Traveling Tumbleweed. And then on Instagram, it's also called the Traveling Tumbleweed, but it's the underscore Traveling Tumbleweed on
Yes.
Instagram.
Okay, and I'll put all of that in the show notes for sure. So sorry to everybody else for another Southern Indiana reference, but when I first saw that it was called the tumbleweed, all I could think of was and I'm using air quotes here because I've lived in Texas now, the Tex-Mex restaurant tumbleweed.
I mean, I would probably do not great things for Tumbleweed right now. So I
Oh
like the
man.
reference.
Look, here's the thing. If you've ever had real Texas Tex-Mex and then you go like Austin's from Texas, although I call him a tumbleweed because he's all over the place too because his dad worked for Coca-Cola and so they moved a ton. And so I was like, "Oh, you are going to love tumbleweed. It's going to be the best thing ever." And he got there and he was like, "This is what you grew up on thinking Tex-Mex was." But hey, it was ours and we love it.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I once again I really appreciate the time. Everyone go check out Melissa's pages, The Traveling Tumbleweed. And remember, be curious, not judgmental. See ya.